Photography is a constant learning process, and making mistakes is often the best way to learn. So in today's video, I'm sharing 5 mistakes that I've made in the past that you should definitely try to avoid. So welcome back to another landscape photography adventure. Wow, today is absolutely stunning. But on the way, we're going to be talking about 5 photography mistakes that you should really try and avoid. So while I'm on the way to my first location, here's the first mistake that for some reason I make almost on a weekly basis, so I really need to do better with this one. So here's the first mistake. So I want to mention this one first because I think it's perhaps the most obvious point of all of them, but I believe it's just as important as any of the other aspects I'm going to be talking about today. And it's something I still find myself guilty of even now, and that's not allocating enough time prior to the start of a shoot. And this is relevant for any shoot, whether that's a portrait session or, like for me today, a landscape photography shoot. Simply give yourself an extra half an hour or an hour more than you initially think you're going to need, because I find rushing around can get pretty stressful and it really stifles the creative process. I think I'm much more productive when time is on my side. It also gives you a bit of a buffer as well and allows for any unforeseen problems such as traffic or road closures or getting lost. And as I mentioned, this is quite an obvious point, but one, for some reason, I still overlook, especially when I'm shooting sunrise. So I actually think that point about sunrise shoots is particularly important. You know, you really need to allow yourself a little bit more time than you think, because quite often the best colour is way before the sun breaks the horizon. And I also think it takes quite a lot longer to actually set up a composition in the dark before the light hits the landscape. This particular woodland trail actually makes its way down to a little cove, so I'm going to check that out and then we'll get on to point number 2. But I have actually found a couple of areas that I really want to shoot. It looks amazing back there. I stumbled across a waterfall as well, which I wasn't expecting, and the wild garlic looks absolutely beautiful. Anyway, let's check out this little cove. Just look at that, absolutely stunning, beautiful blue waters there. I wish I'd have bought the Speedos, could have gone for a dip. Anyway, here's mistake number 2. So for mistake number 2, I want to discuss camera gear. Now we often hear that camera gear doesn't matter, it's where you point it that counts. And while I believe this to be true, it's undeniable that higher end cameras and lenses will outperform entry-level kits. But the key thing is, not owning the best gear shouldn't hold you back. A common mistake I see is when the focus shifts to the gear someone wants to own rather than what they currently own. And I know I've been guilty of this in the past. I think the real focus should be on maximising the potential of the gear that you already have. The more you know your current kit inside out, the better you're going to become as a photographer, without doubt. So for instance, I enjoy dabbling in wildlife photography occasionally, but I don't own a dedicated wildlife lens like, say, a 400mm prime lens. While I might capture better photos with such a lens, I can't justify the price tag for the little amount of wildlife photography that I do. But should I stop taking wildlife pictures? Absolutely not. Instead, I should concentrate on being more patient in the field, perhaps trying to get a bit closer to my subject, and simply enjoy the process of being close to these wild animals. For many people, myself included, it's the experience of being in the field that is actually more enjoyable than capturing a pixel perfect photograph. So I had absolutely no idea there was a waterfall down here, and this wonderful glade of wild garlic and these brand new ferns that have just burst into life looks absolutely stunning. Some of the garlic's actually probably a week or so over, but I found a patch down there that is looking just beautiful. I think the composition that I've got I'm really happy with actually. And I've just been waiting for the light to be in the right place. What I'm looking for is a little bit of diffusion when the sun goes behind the clouds, and I've got the polarizer on as well. I'm just experimenting with different shutter speeds, so I'm ranging between 1/4 of a second and about 1/8 of a second, just to show some motion in the water. And I think it's a lovely image. I'm really pleased with it on the back of the camera, so I hope you enjoy it. So what an absolutely spectacular location that was. Unbelievable, just speechless to be honest. Absolutely incredible. Yeah, I wasn't expecting a waterfall. I knew there was some wild garlic down here, but yeah, didn't know there was a waterfall. So that was an absolute find. I'm heading to the coastal path for sunset, so hopefully we can get some nice views across the sea. And then we'll talk about the other 3 mistakes that you definitely want to avoid in your photography. So we've reached our destination for sunset, and what a location it is. You might be able to see behind me light rays coming down into the sea. Some pretty interesting cloud detail as well, so hopefully we're going to get a good sunset. It's not too much further up here. So while I make my way up there, let's get on to mistake number 3. So mistake number 3 is to avoid replicating what is popular just because it's popular. Now, I made this mistake when I first started out as a professional photographer some 16 years ago. Now, I think I've mentioned this before, but back then I was shooting portraits and I'd filled my website with content that mirrored what was popular in my area, but I really struggled to fill my diary with bookings. After a while, the reason for this became clear to me. Several established photographers were already dominating that style, and without the reputation that they built up, breaking into that sector was always going to be challenging. My work had to be different to stand out, but it also had to be something I was passionate about for it to really work. Now, I've come to realise that the photography itself is only a small part of what's important. The photographer's story, their dedication to their art, their passion to push boundaries, and their ability to share their narrative are what resonate with many people more. I think the journey is often the missing ingredient. So how do you find something unique when everything seems to have been done to death? Well, I believe the truth is to follow your heart and let your passion shine through. If you enjoy shooting abstracts more than anything else, then do it. You know, personally, I prefer calm landscape images. I think these kinds of images reflect my personality, and I'm willing to receive less attention on social media to shoot what I enjoy rather than going for epic vistas with extravagant composite edits that would surely attract a larger audience. Now, I'm not criticising that style at all. I'm simply saying that shooting what resonates with you as a person should always be the most important thing. So, tip number 4, or mistake number 4, is not exploring a scene to its full potential. So this is something I see quite a bit on my photography tours and one-to-ones, and it's something that I wish I'd also learnt sooner. And I find the tendency is to take a photo straight away when presented with a fantastic scene. Now, this should definitely be the way to go if you get a moment of amazing light, but for the most part, putting time into working a composition often yields the best results. I think subtle camera movements and focal length changes can make all of the difference, and having patience then to wait for the light to hit the right parts of the composition can often make or break an image. I guess what I'm saying here is if you find an area that you like, take the time to explore it to its full potential, and I think patience is often the key. So if you're interested in joining me on a landscape photography tour, there's a link down in the video description which will take you to my workshops and tours. Now, I've only got a few places left for 2024, but you know, if you are interested, please be sure to check out the link or drop me an email if you've got any questions. It's going to be absolutely epic. I'm going to meet so many great people this year, and we're going to share so many amazing memories. So yeah, please do check it out if you're interested in joining me. It's going to be awesome, it really is. Right, wow. Come on, son, poke through. So the composition is set up. It took me a little while, but I've been quite patient. I wanted to try and make something a little bit different to last time I was here. And I found this gorse bush down here on the right hand side and some wonderful boulders with lots of lichens and mosses on them as well, which is quite nice. The light's coming through from the side as well, which is backlighting some of this gorse and obviously putting some nice light on the foreground and on the background as well. Issue I have is a big bank of cloud out to the west, which is exactly what we had last time we were here. So time will tell what will happen, but I'm shooting this probably over the next 10 minutes or so because I think that's probably going to be when the best light is. So While I'm waiting for the light, let's take a look at mistake number 5. So mistake number 5 is finding a great composition and never returning. And I think this is an interesting one. Now, say we've put in the hard work to find a composition and we've taken a nice photo that we're fairly happy with, then that is great, right? Well, yeah, it is, but you know, you've done the hard part, but to get an amazing photo, one to put in your portfolio, we've got to hammer that photo as much as possible. Keep going back, revisit it as much as possible. Different seasons, different light, different weather conditions, because I guarantee there's a better image to be had. After all, finding a unique and personal composition is one of the most challenging parts of landscape photography. So I think overlooking this can really hamper your chances of creating a collection of photos that really resonate with you. And of course, this is more difficult if we've travelled some distance, but it's a great way of getting better photos closer to home. So I've been shooting this scene for a while as the light's been changing, but now we're getting some rays of light coming from the right hand side, which is exactly what we had last year. But I actually think I prefer this year's composition, which is a key thing really, I think, when we're talking about revisiting locations. You know, working on the composition, looking for new aspects, new areas, new foregrounds, new ways to piece together a composition. You know, if you find a great area, it really is worth just maximising what you can get out of that area. And you know, things are constantly changing, aren't they? The light, the clouds, the seasons, the flowers, everything. So yeah, so much to get from one location if you keep revisiting. But yeah, I wonder if this cloud's going to light up. Oh, it's getting quite chilly now, but what a cracking day it's been. And if you enjoyed this week's video, you might like the one that is up here. And why not check out my landscape photography ebook for more inspiration? The link for that is up here and also down in the video description. Bye for now, and I hope to see you all again next week, where we'll be out on another landscape photography adventure.